So now we're going to get into our headline act, but before I bring her to the stage, I want to tell you just a bit about her so you know what to expect. Suhaiymah Manzoor Khan is an incredibly talented and very rebellious writer, poet and educator who challenges social norms on a daily. Her latest book, Seeing for Ourselves, continues to disrupt the understandings of history, race, knowledge and violence. She has an incredibly powerful slam piece, which you should look up, called This Is Not a Humanizing Poem. And it went viral with over 2 million views online, and for good reason. With works like Tangled in Terror and Post-Colonial Banter. Can I just say, what an incredible name for a book. She's been gaining attention and praise across the world and from some really big names. Her words and actions reshape the narrative for a better, a more inclusive future. So please welcome to the stage and be prepared to enjoy the wonderful Suhaiymah Manzoor Khan. Keep it going till she gets up here.
That's it. Turn the page in the day, walk away. Cause there's sense in what I say. I'm 45th generation Roman, but I don't know them or care when I speak.
Hello everybody, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. Can we get a massive round of applause for the incredible poets that we've heard tonight? I've been sitting over here trying really hard to judge, and it's really hard. Like I didn't think it would be that hard, but it's really hard. And using decimal, I'm pretending that I'm using decimals, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, thank you. It's a real honour to be on this lineup, I guess. I'm actually going to start with the very poem that was mentioned, just because I've not slammed for a long time, and I've not been at a slam for a long time, and this is kind of my, I don't know, it's like my debut slam poem, I guess. So it feels fitting. Also feels kind of tragic that it's 7 years old, but kind of remains relevant. Some poems force you to write them. The way sirens force their way through window panes in the night, and you can't shut out the news, even when you try. Write a humanizing poem. My pen and paper goad me. Show them how wrong their preconceptions are. Be relatable. Write something upbeat for a change. Crack a smile. Tell them how you also cry at the end of Toy Story 3. You're just as capable of bantering about the weather in the post office queue. Like everyone, you have no idea how to make the perfect amount of pasta. Still. Read them stories of stoic humour. Make a reference to childhood. Tell an anecdote about being frugal. Mention the X Factor. Be domestic, successful, add layers. Tell them you know brown boys who cry. About the sides of Assads, Amirs and Hassans they don't know. The complex inner worlds of Suhaiymahs and Aishas. Tell them comedies as well as tragedies. How full of life we are, how full of love. But no, I put my pen down. I will not let that poem force me to write it, because it's not the poem I want to write. It's the poem I have been reduced to. Reduced to proving my life is human because it is relatable. Valuable because it is recognizable. But good GCSEs, family and childhood memories are not the only things that count as a life. Living is. So this will not be a Muslims are like us poem. I refuse to be respectable. Instead, love us when we're lazy. Love us when we're poor. Love us in our back-to-backs, council estates, depressed, unwashed and weeping. Love us high as kites, unemployed, joyriding, time-wasting, failing at school. Love us filthy, without the right colour passports, without the right sounding English. Love us silent, unapologising, shopping in Poundland, skiving off school, homeless, unsure, sometimes violent. Love us when we aren't athletes, when we don't bake cakes, when we don't offer our homes or free taxi rides after the event, when we're wretched, suicidal, naked and contributing nothing. Love us then. Because if you need me to prove my humanity, I'm not the one that's not human. My mother texts me too after BBC News alerts. Are you safe? Let me know you're home okay. And she means safe from the incident, yes, but also from the after effects. So sometimes I wonder, which days of the week might I count as liberal, and which moments of forehead to the ground am I conservative? I wonder, when you buy bombs, is there a clear difference between the deadly ones that kill and the heroic ones which scatter democracy? I wonder, isn't it really guilty until proven innocent? How can we kill in the name of saving lives? How can we illegally detain in the name of maintaining the law? I can't write it. I put my pen away. I won't write it. Is this radical? Am I radical? Because there is nowhere else left to exist now. Thank you guys. So I'm going to read a poem from my latest book, which is new, and this is not 7 years old, so just treating you guys, something new. I guess this is just on the theme of the title of the book is Seeing for Ourselves and Even Stranger Possibilities. And really, it was kind of an exploration of just trying to think about what it means to kind of see with your own eyes in a society or in a world within which kind of you've only ever seen images of yourselves. And I say that I do a lot of poetry workshops with kids in schools. And one of the things that really breaks my heart is when you have like 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds writing, I like to call them I am not poems. And it's like, I am not a terrorist. I am not a criminal. I am not, fill in the blank. And I just find that absolutely devastating. And I guess one of the solutions that, like, as a society, we kind of profess would be helpful is like positive representation, right? Like, we need more positive stories. Like, we need to hear more good things about people, so then we don't think bad things about them. And I'm just, this poem is called I Don't Want Positive Representation. I don't want positive representation. I want my childhood back. I want the parents in prison to come home, to have come home already, to have never left. I don't want positive representation. I want the planes to open back up their bellies and re-internalize the bombs. I want Fahim Qureshi to get his eye back. I don't want positive representation. I want my time back. I want to have never memorized the justification for why I wear it. I want to have never felt smallness. I want to walk with giant steps. I want my sorrow to be a headline. I want our deaths to be devastating. I want the world to stop. I don't want positive representation. I want tyrants on their knees. I want Yom al-Qiyamah. I want more than ipso apologies. I want the channel to dry up. I want our siblings to stride through the sea and claim what's theirs. I want them to take it all back. I want homes unburied by rubble. I want the shrapnel reconstituted into a body of metal, never to touch a baby's skin. I want torsos with no memory of being pushed against car bonnets. I want the journalists jobless. I want economic losses. I don't want positive representation. Thank you, guys. Now, it would be remiss, I think, of me to stand on any stage, actually, in the current genocide that we're witnessing and not name it. I haven't written a poem for a really, really long time. And like I say, these 7-year-old poems just keep sustaining me. But I was able to write something this weekend, and I'm not sure if a lot of you might have seen that story about a boy called Hussam al-Attar, and they're calling him the Newton of Gaza. And it's a really interesting story, and he's kind of managed to make electricity from scraps. Like, he found a fan, and then I'm pretending I know how it works, but he's just kind of attached things, and he's managed to light up the tent that his family are living in. So this poem is called Hussam al-Attar. Hussam al-Attar, 15 years old, makes electricity from broken things. Teaches that damaged is only illusion, and shattered is only exterior, that light can be made in even the darkest of places. You can crumble the buildings, but never the souls. You can take the land, but not the martyrs. And for every body buried, there will be a soul set alight with the fire of resistance. They're calling him the Newton of Gaza, but he is the Hussam al-Attar of the world. Make him the barometer. Make him the reference point. For Newton's inventions weren't made under the rubble of Western financial interest or the wreckage of corporate media's allegiance to colonial occupation, no. Hassam al-Attar reminds us to question every first. For Newton was merely the Ibn al-Haytham of England, the Ibn Sina of Europe, and likewise, before 2023, before Israel, it was 1936 British planes dropping evacuation notices on Palestinian homes, burning them to rubble by the afternoon. Before Nakba, before Israel, it was 1920 British Palestine police flying in counterinsurgent paramilitary used on the Irish, now for the Arabs, teaching torture techniques to Zionist forces. Before Netanyahu, before Israel, it was 1938, Britain's Charles Teggett constructing fortresses and prisons learnt from India's suppression. So much for the freedom of the West, rights and liberty. 2024, do we not see? It's not the Hassam al-Attars of the world who are unfree, but we. Shackled by mock democracy, thousands ignored on the street every week, a prime minister nobody voted in, making bets on his ability to be inhumane. More intent on preserving the profits of war than money for heating and feeding the poor. Bombing the brave who stop ships at sea, detaining the destructors of weapon factories. It is not they who are in darkness, but we. After all, it is said that the angels see places where God is mentioned on earth the same way that we see stars in the skies. If that is the case, then Gaza is a constellation. Gaza is a nebula. Gaza is a lightning strike in a world of wave upon wave of dark. So when they call him the Newton of Gaza, let Hassam al-Attar remind us that we need not value minds by proximity to whiteness. We will not value lives by proximity to whiteness. But if we were to, I have never seen a people more enveloped in it. White sheets stained with blood, white body bags, white phosphorus, white sacks of flour severed by bullets, white rubble, white smoke, white ashes, white dust, white flags snipers seek out to shoot, white kitten clinging to a little girl, white carrier bag carrying baby boy's limbs, white bandage, white gauze, white noise, white ambulance crushed by the strike of the drone, white medical uniform slain in the road, white pages of Quran fluttering out of bombed mosques, white clouds of rain filling cold slides, white beards on wizened men, white bowls held out for food, white tents, white placards, white roofs, white lies, white glaring lights, pure, pristine, innocent, white genocide. Hassam al-Attar laughs when they call him mischievous. Says he just likes to make something out of nothing, light out of the dark. God grant us Hassam's mind. God grant us Hassam's heart. And God grant us the realization that sometimes all that it takes is a spark. I also just wanted to read a short poem that's not mine. I'm sure many of you will have seen it recently circulating on social media. It's by Rifat al-Arir, and he was a Palestinian poet, scholar, writer, fantastically loved across Palestine. And he was murdered in the early months of the genocide. I'm sure you've heard it, but I just thought it would be important to share as we see the ground invasion probably beginning of Rafah. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale. It's Rifat al-Arir. I think it's really important that we shed light on the poets and the artists and the cultural workers of Palestine. I think part of a genocide is also the eradication of culture. And it's really astounding seeing the silence of some arts institutions in this country. And yeah, I just think in art spaces we have to celebrate the fact that, you know, this is actually what art allows us to do, express. And so, yeah, I think it's beautiful that we can come together and express all the things we want to, all the things we care about. And I think we have to remember that that is actually what art is about. I think I have time for 2 more poems. So I'm kind of tossing up what to do. I've not done this one for a long time. So, as I've mentioned, I'm an educator as well, and I think that academia is so inaccessible and boring and difficult. And so I like to write in ways that translate that into more kind of accessible and interesting things. And speaking of which, I have some books at the back. But this poem is named after the Prevent policy. Just out of curiosity, with a show of hands, who's familiar with the Prevent policy? Okay, like 50%. That's not bad. Yeah, okay. Got some fans down here. The Prevent policy is a piece of legislation that became statutory in the UK in 2015. That means that it's a legal obligation upon every public sector worker in this country to look out for signs of radicalisation amongst those in their charge. So if you're a doctor, you look out for it in your patients. If you're a teacher, you look out for it in your students. Sounds lovely, sounds wonderful, sounds secure. It's called PPP Prevent. You cannot say that you're preventing terrorists if all that you're doing is preempting terrorists. Because in a political climate where terror is presupposed in Muslim people, your predictions are predicated purely on profiling. And this premise of profiling lacks scientific precision, it just takes perceived Muslimness as the prerequisite for violent decisions. So whilst preemption might sound like it makes political sense, in a legal system that purports to presume innocence, prevent is nothing more than prejudice. Because now a beard or a penchant for the wrong profit or praying become proof of a predisposition to political violence you're displaying. Yet the polemics of politicians who protest Muslim presence don't qualify as prevent-worthy practices requiring repentance. So what we're looking at is public policy prepared prior to evidence that even the psychologists have said is pseudoscience, a project that promotes the policing of Muslim people, placing pressure on the public sector to presume Muslim pupils and patients are prone to evil. You cannot say that you're preventing terrorists if all that you're doing is preempting terrorists. And to argue it's okay, because prevent also prevents far-right extremists, is to lie that a system predicated on Islamophobic prejudice could possibly protect Muslims from a persecuting legislative. It is to lie that policy based in predictive policing could possibly be used to prevent itself. That providing further profit to an Islamophobic project is not just the most palpable manifestation of state persecution made publicly palatable through institutionalization. And let's not pretend prevent has no purpose either. Because promoting the presumption that Muslims are prone to violence conveniently pretends that the state cannot be violent. No need to ponder the parameters that shape Muslim lives, no puzzling over foreign or domestic policy, arms trades or racial profiling. See, prevent perpetuates public policy participating in displacement, protecting the state and government from any pertinent debasement. No need to hold the political infrastructures accountable. Instead, the problem is Muslims and the Muslim problem is insurmountable. Pretty convenient, no? You cannot say that you're preventing terrorists if all that you're doing is preempting terrorists. Perhaps if instead of prevent we could ponder the past that made political violence probable, but imperialism loves to pretend itself away. So police are given more powers as if policing protects the nation, and prisons and deportation planes are made methods of purgation. In the end, prevent is nothing but political deflection, proof that the state is headed in the most authoritarian direction. So prepare for permanent conditions of political persecution, because even if it's not yet palpable to you, the project of resistance is your obligation too. The project of resistance is your obligation too. Thanks so much, guys. Like I said, it's been an absolute honour to share this lineup. I think the poetry tonight, I'm scared about this final round. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't judge. Don't ask me to judge. Yeah, but I just want to say congratulations to all the poets. I think the fact that you performed here is in itself something to be happy about, and it's been a really beautiful thing to share the stage. I do have some books at the back which I can sell and break if anyone would like any. I'm going to read my final poem, and it's named after another of my favourite policies. I love naming poems after policies. I think this is one that you all love as well. We all love it. We have to say words. British values. Okay, so hands up if you love British values. Oh, the test. Okay. This is again an old poem, but it's just they don't age. It's a horrifying reality. Actually, these poems don't age. I'm kind of hoping I don't reach like 20 years time, and I'm just like British values. But yeah, some of the references you can probably guess. You'll know there's worse things that are happening currently. So I said to my sister earlier, maybe I'll just update this poem every year, just add more and more beautiful British things. Young Muslims in Britain often straddle two worlds. They appear to have a foot in each. Culture concerns revealed around national identification of Muslims in Britain. Review raises alarm over social integration in youth schools to promote fundamental British fact. The face of Britain is changing beyond recognition. I look in the mirror. It's not shattered. I am whole. No one for in, one for out. No reason I've got to learn Britishness from the somehow more devout. I'm not uneasy, torn, or straddling. It's not shattered. I am whole. Yet the opposite is somehow all that you'll get told. I mean, I guess because if it wasn't, if we faced up to the glass, you'd be left with the fact that I am inside. I am Britain now. Because Britain is Bismillah. Britain is basmati rice. Britain is box braids and black barbers shops, Bollywood and Bangla. Britain is Bradford and Barking and Birmingham. Britain is biryani and black beans. Britain is black. Britain is brown. Britain is boys blasting dubstep on the bus to town. Britain is body popping outside the tube. Britain is bricklaying before it was cool. Britain is bilingual. Britain is the burqa. Britain is praying in the changing rooms. Britain has its feet in your sink. Britain is bad at knowing itself, belligerent and boring. Britain has not changed beyond recognition. Recognize it was never one thing. I am the inside you pretend is outside, but we have to stop pretending. Pretending the rolling hills are just romantic, not remnants of injustices swept under a rug. Like the tea didn't come from Asia, like its sugar wasn't grown by slaves, like dry humour isn't a way to just ridicule the scent, and cues don't expose the way we're always told to wait for change rather than making it. And it's funny that over-apologising is seen as a national trait, because half of history is still waiting. I look in the mirror. It's not shattered, I am whole, there is no brink or turning point. I'm here. Britain is barbaric. Sorry, did you think that was me? Barbaric bystander straddling the boundary, not quite inside, so you could say I'm the things you forgot, like you're modern, so I'm backwards, you're democratic, so you say I'm not. When the truth is, Britain is blood on its hands and back to the wall. Britain is selling weapons to the most repressive regimes in the world. Britain is the bombs the Saudis dropped on Yemen. Britain is using fear to build surveillance apparatus since 9/11. Britain is believing in human rights whilst removing them all. Britain is Yards, Wood, Brook House, Colnbrook and Morton Hall, all immigration removal centres. Britain is 1,600 dead in or after police custody since 1990. Britain has no qualms about detaining asylum seekers indefinitely. Britain is suicide attempts, secret courts and secret torture. Britain is stopping you at the border. Britain is seeing it, saying it, sorting it, which means Britain is also deporting it. Because what else do you do when you look in the mirror and find the sugar and tea had strings attached? The factories on the rolling hills depended on our labour. The bombs destroyed the homes of kids now at the border. Britain is barbaric. Britain is blindly patriotic. Britain is built on false narratives, slices of other people's dishes. Britain is stolen artefacts in museums named after itself. Britain is knife and fork polite, stabbing you at will. Britain is selective. Yours till it's not, in yours till it's not, then blaming you. Britain is borders, Britain is Brexit, Britain is spending on weddings but not fireproofing homes. Britain is cutting mental health services, yet somehow strong and stable. Britain is 50% of young people in custody being from ethnic minority backgrounds, and Britain is blaming them for this statistic rather than asking difficult questions, because Britain is blaming the kids who aren't white. Britain is blaming the Muslims, Britain is blaming the immigrants, Britain is blaming bureaucracy. Britain is not listening. Britain is not that great. Britain is breaking, but breaking everywhere except the place it points the finger. Because there's only a few things left that are great about Britain. And they're that Britain is Bismillah, basmati and bilingual, box braids and black barbers shops, Bollywood and Bhangra, body popping outside the tube, Brick Lane before it was cool. Britain is the burqa. Britain is praying in the changing rooms. Britain has its feet in your sink. Britain is your greatest nightmare. Every repercussion you never thought through. Britain is the terror to be countered. Britain is the mind to be got inside. I am the great in Britain now. And aren't you terrified? Thank you so much. And this is Manzoor working with you. Thank you.
Make some noise for Suhaiymah Manzoor! That pen is absolutely lethal. So you can find Suhaiymah on Instagram at the Brown Hijabi. Please do follow her.